Hello everyone, welcome to Dirt Cheap Preps. I urge everyone, if you will please, share our content. We are a new channel we're trying to build, and I normally don't ask those kind of things, but since we are trying to build, I'm sorry I have to ask it. So if you would, please share our content with your friends, your family, your associates, and it'll help a lot, and I tremendously appreciate it. So anyway, we're going to talk about energy production today, and I'm going to approach it much different than what you see most prepper channels, because, well, they want you to go out and just buy this box and that box and the other box, and they want you to spend just a fortune on this equipment. And you know what? Not all of us have the ability to do that. That's why we are Dirt Cheap Preps. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you about the whole gambit here. I want to start out with the production of the energy, and then of course the storage of the energy, and then leading into the conversion of the energy into a form that you can use. So we're going to start out, we're going to talk a little bit about production, but before we get into any of that, I want to emphasize that absolutely nothing replaces knowledge. So I urge everyone to learn basic electrical, just basic electrical. You don't have to get all deep into it. You don't have to know all the components of a circuit board. You don't have to learn how to read schematics or anything like that. But a basic understanding of electricity and how it works, the difference between DC and AC, and the difference between amps, which is current, versus volts. You know, anything related to the basic use of electrical energy is important for you to understand. I'm not going to get too much in depth here because I don't want to lose anybody, but I do urge you to learn. There's plenty of content out there on YouTube. There's plenty of books you can get that teach basic electrical. Nothing, and I'll emphasize again, nothing replaces knowledge. Nothing at all. So first off, before we get involved in the production per se, you will need something to be able to test with. And this is not an expensive multimeter by any means. This one was actually gifted to me for Christmas from Jen's dad, and I am very appreciative of it. The one I had before is a yellow, real cheap GE model from Walmart that's very inaccurate. And you know, this is not an expensive model by any means. Just get a decent multi-tester that's going to be accurate, and you're good to go, because you're going to want to be able to diagnose issues that you may run into, okay? So again, knowledge, the most important part, and then you need a way to be able to test your equipment. So that's why I recommend a multi-tester. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about production. Okay, I've got 3 different solar panels here, and none of them are the one that I most recommend for people that's getting into you know, prepper emergency power or anything like that. I don't happen to have one of the ones that I would really like to have, maybe someday. But what I do have, we'll start out with this one right here so I can kind of get it out of the way. This is a 60 watt, it's what's called a semi-flexible, and I know I can't get it all on the screen, but it's what they call a semi-flexible panel, okay? And a lot of people are going to go, wait, I've seen those, that's a 50 watt. Well, you're right, I've seen a ton of them too that say 50 watt, and I don't know if this is going to focus or not, but let me try to get it focused on the screen here, and if it focuses, that's the specs. What can I say? And again, I don't know if you can read it or not, but it does say 60 watt. So that is a 60 watt, what they call a semi-flexible panel. Is this what I recommend for you? Well, only you know your needs, and for our particular needs, I thought it was important to have semi-flexible panels. They are not my favorite. They are far from the best, but again, for our particular needs, I wanted to get a couple of semi-flexible panels. So we have 2 of these. rated at 60 watts, okay? And again, I know when you go out and you find these out on the interwebs, you're going to see that they're rated at 50 watt. So what gives, I don't know, but this is rated for 60 watt. So I have 2 of those, okay? And you can connect them together, and let me cover that real quick. Right here, you know, whether you want to call it a tree, a branch, a junction cable, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to call it. That's what this is for, okay? So you can basically plug 2 solar panels into this, okay? It's got 2 inputs, and then it's got 1 output. And there's 2 of these that come in a set. You'll have one that's set up for the positive side and another one that's set up for the negative side, okay? And that one is good for 2 panels, okay? I also have this one here that is good for 4 panels. So I can hook up 4 panels to this and have 1 output to be able to go to my solar charge controller, which we'll get to momentarily. So these are a must if you have multiple panels. So let me set that out of the way as well. I'm going to go ahead and get these out of the way too. These are extension cables that I made. What I urge you to do is to get some connectors, just some blank connectors, so that you have them. Again, being able to do things when you need to do them is incredibly important. And I believe these are MC4 connectors. And the thing is if you don't have them, it's kind of hard to make your own cables. Sure, you can go out and buy cables and all that, and if you want to, that's fine. But I still urge you to have some of the connectors that you can make your own cables should you need to during an event. And I've got, I think this one's 10 foot if I'm not mistaken. And then I've got, I believe this one's 20 foot with a heavier gauge wire. That's important too. You have to know what your wire can handle, okay? DC current, it really doesn't like to travel very far distances. And so the further distance you go, the thicker gauge wire you need. So you have to keep that in mind. DC, it's not real good to run any length whatsoever unless you have massive cables. So keep that in mind. AC is a little different. You can get away with running AC longer distances without quite as hefty wires. So again, you'll learn stuff like that if you you know, read up a little bit about a basic electrical. So now that I've got those out of the way, let's continue on with the production side of things. Here is the first solar panel that we had got. Now this is a 28 watt folding panel, and before anybody starts calling me out, because back when I made another video and I showed this, I was called a liar and told that that's not a 28 watt panel. They don't make a 28 watt panel. They only make 21 watt panels. Well, I don't know what to tell you, but they used to, and I'll try to get it to focus there. They used to, I don't know if it's focusing or not. I know there's a light glare. I'm trying to take care of that. They used to make 28 watt panels, okay? And I can open up here on the inside and show you the specs. As soon as I find it, here's the specs page in English. And I'll try to get it to focus. I hope it will. Hang on. Try to get it to focus. Hopefully it focuses enough that you can read that. It is indeed a 28 watt panel. So for all the haters out there, neener. So anyway, let me put this in here because I didn't have this in here, and it's probably where it should go. So let me throw that in there. So this is a little folding panel, again 28 watt, and it's not really good for a whole lot. Sure, you can recharge mobile devices and whatnot with it, but it's not, you know, 28 watts really isn't going to get you real far away, okay? But again, you can absolutely charge mobile devices, and I know everything I have here is dusty. You can charge mobile devices and stuff with it. Sure enough, you could recharge little power banks and stuff like that with it. But it's not going to do anything really quick. I mean, sure, it might charge your mobile phone or a tablet or something somewhat, you know, quickly. But 28 watts, I'm telling you, is not a whole lot. I really don't recommend anything this small, to be honest. I would stick with something 50-60 watts at a minimum. Okay, anything other than that, anything lower, I should say, it's just not not sufficient. It's just not going to do what you probably need it to do or expect it to do. So anyway, that was an all powers. Again, they don't make this model anymore. They do make 21 watt models, if I'm not mistaken, but the 28 watt is apparently a dinosaur. So I've got one more panel to show you, and then I'll tell you about the panels that I will recommend. And I do recommend these, by the way. This is a ROCKPALS. This is a 60 watt panel. They also make 100 watt panels, and it's folding. And you're not going to even remotely be able to see this all on screen, but I'll try to open up a little bit of it here so you can see it. But this is a 60 watt panel here, and you know, one of the things I really harp on a lot is a lot of these prepper channels, they go out and they get these prefab systems like the Jackery, for instance, and they'll go out and spend a ton of money on the, you know, 2 100 watt panels and maybe the 1000 watt Jackery and all that. Well, here's the thing about that. If you watch people that make videos on those units, they hook up 2 100 watt panels, and about the most I have ever seen them be able to pull out of those panels is around 130 watts, sometimes up to close to 140 watts. That's the most I've seen out of those Jackeries, folks. And I want you to understand that there are a lot of products that are made by the same companies and the same factories, and they just throw different labels on them. So I'm picking on the name Jackery, but there's actually other brands out there, other models that are the same. You can look at them and the colors might be different. However, the design is the same. It's coming from the same place, folks. And I'm telling you, those panels aren't worth the cost, not even remotely, because why? They don't put out 100 watts. If you've got 200 watts worth of panels and you're only reading, you know, in best case scenario, 130 to 140 watts, you got gypped, okay? I can tell you from experience, because I've done the testing myself, and if it wasn't a cloudy day, I would take it out and I would show you again. This actually produces a little bit above 60 watts. Okay, so I will stand behind ROCKPALS. Their panels put out what they claim they put out. They're not like all these other companies, or a lot of the other companies that put out panels that don't even come close to putting out what their specs say. So hats off to ROCKPALS for being honest. That is something that you rarely see in this industry, is honesty. So ROCKPALS, this is a 60 watt. They make a 100 watt. They're not cheap. I'm telling you that right up front, but these are absolutely incredible panels. And now the one I showed you prior, the little 28 watt, it does have connections. You know, it's got a connector that you can hook up, but it doesn't have solar. It doesn't have the MC4 solar panel connectors. By the way, here is a kit that I had bought separately. I've got a little 5 amp battery charger here that's set up to go with this unit, and then just various types of connectors and stuff like that I keep in the pouch here. And here is actually a battery charger. Let me go ahead and pull it out and show you. And it will charge you know, 18650 batteries, but it'll charge all kinds of other stuff, like even your rechargeable AA's and AAA's and all that. It'll charge all that. I think it will charge the 21700s, I believe it is, which is becoming more and more popular. But I mainly charge 18650 batteries, and so that's why I have this. And I would like to note that it runs on a USB cable, okay? So this is the Xtar VC4, and it is USB powered. You plug that right in just like that, and it is USB powered. And that's why I got this model, to be able to keep in here, because it was USB powered. And let me show you. Let me get this back in here at least and set off to the side. Inside here you have a little power block, and I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. I'm trying to get it to where you can, but there's a power block in here that's got 3 USB ports. One of them's the fancy whatever QC3 or whatever port. It does have one of those, and then 2 regular USB ports. So I've got 3 USB ports that I can charge from, that I could be charging those 18650 batteries. But I also have cables with MC4 connectors that are built right into the unit, so that I can use these with those other connectors, the trees, branches, whatever you want to call them, to be able to connect the multiple panels. So I could actually, I've got 2 of those 60-watt semi-flexible panels, and then I've got one of these 60-watt folding panels, and I can actually connect all 3 of those solar panels together using those connectors, and then that's a total of 180 watts, and then I could run it into a solar charge controller, and we're going to be getting to that next. And this is the reason why I say you don't have to go out and spend just a fortune of money on these big solar generator boxes and their junk panels that they come with. That's not the route you should go, especially if you don't have the extra money to do it. Hey, if you got the money to do it, if you got the money to spare, hey, have at it. Do whatever you please. This is the Dirt Cheap Preps channel, and this is geared towards people that don't have money to waste. Plain and simple. So I mentioned solar charge controller, and that's next up because I've covered the panels. Oh, I do need to tell you, the panels that I really recommend you get, you can go on Amazon and whatnot, and you can get a brand called Renogy. They're 100-watt panels. They're solid panels. They're not semi-flexible or anything like that. They're solid panels, and to be honest, those are really about the best bang for your buck. You can get those on average for around $100 a panel, you know, about $1 a watt, and they're reliable panels. They're good panels. So I highly recommend the Renogy 100-watt panels if you can use them. And I would like to get some. I do plan to if I get the funds to do it. I do plan to get some Renogys. I'd like to have at least a couple of them. Here's just a cheap El Cheapo solar charge controller. Now this one is good for either, and it shows right here, it's and again, I don't know if you can read that stuff, but it's good for either 12 or 24 volts. So I can run this with a 12 volt or a 24 volt system, and it will automatically choose which one depending on what battery voltage it detects on the system here. So it's not an expensive one. Is this the best? No, far from it. Is this what I recommend? Yeah. If that's all you have the money for, hey, it's a solar charge controller. The important thing to pay attention to when purchasing a solar charge controller is this right here, the MPPT, okay? That's a much better charging system than the PWM unit. So when you go and you pick out a solar charge controller, try to find one that says MPPT, okay? Again, it basically will charge the batteries better and faster even in lower light conditions. Like if it's a cloudy day or something like that, this will do a much better job charging the MPPT system than what a PWM system will. So that's going to be my main recommendation on picking out a solar charge controller. Get one that's MPPT. Okay, that's highly recommended. This here is just a temperature sensor, and it has to be plugged in when used. So it's I just leave it plugged in, but it's just a little temperature sensor there. But so I've got this basically set up. As you can see, the one end here, I've got MC4 connectors, and that's what you would connect to the solar panel end of things. And then this here, I've just got a couple bared stripped wires because Lord knows what I'll have to connect it to, so that's why I just have bared stripped wires. I would like to put some alligator clips on here, but I just haven't as of yet, so I don't have the spare alligator clips around. So anyway, not super expensive, however, very effective. So that's a solar charge controller. So we have covered being able to bring the energy in or produce the energy with solar panels, okay, this is going to, we'll say, tame down that voltage, because solar panels are, most of them are 18 volt. They're not 12 volt, they're 18 volt. You can't charge a 12 volt battery with a 12 volt power source. It won't work. You have to have more than 12 volts in order to charge that 12 volt battery. So that's why solar panels, most of them, are 18 volt, designed to charge 12 volt batteries. Or if you hook them in series, you can, two in a series would be able to charge a 24 volt system, for example. Again, nothing, and I'll emphasize again, nothing beats knowledge. Having that basic understanding of electrical is incredibly important. So that's a solar charge controller. And again, I would recommend, if you can, get a better unit than what I've got here. This is just a cheap unit, but it works, and it works really well. That's what counts, right? That's what we could afford at the time. That's what we got. So let me set that off to the side here. And before we get into this stuff, let's talk about energy storage a little bit. And that involves my dusty, dirty, corroded up batteries here. So in here is 4 12 volt batteries. They're 20 amp hour batteries. And so hooked in parallel, you would add those amp hours up. So technically, if these batteries were brand new and in great shape, I would have 80 amp hours worth of batteries here. Now, this battery box was actually built for Jen's electric bike, which is a 48 volt system, okay? So that means you have to hook up the 4 batteries in series at 12 volts would make 48 volts. So 4 times 12 is 48. And so since you're hooking it up in a series for her bike, you would not add the amp hours, okay? You would keep it the same. It would be 20 amp hours. So her bike had 20 amp hours worth of battery capacity at 48 volts, okay? However, for using with our system, at least the 12 volt stuff, I've got 80 amp hours, worth of batteries here. So I just kind of wanted to cover that. You might see all kinds of crazy wires looping and wrapping around there, and that is because the way I had this set up is to charge it at 12 volts, okay? But then her bike's 48 volts. So I just made a quick way that I can change it from parallel to series so that I can charge and then within a moment's time get it ready to be able to use on the bike. So that is the reason why you see all the loops and the crazy. I would not recommend that you do all those connections and all that for your system, because it's not necessary. And every time you make a new connection, you throw in another connection, you're inviting trouble. You're inviting corrosion, you're inviting, just a myriad of things. So yeah, don't do what I did here. I'm sure you're not going to be using them for an electric bike. So anyway, that's storage. These are lead acid batteries. I really recommend, if you've got the money, to get, Li-ion batteries or LiFePO4, if I said that correctly. A little better battery technology than what we've got here. However, if you don't have the extra funds to buy the nicer batteries, then I recommend going and getting a good marine battery, a deep cycle battery. These are not deep cycle batteries, okay? I highly recommend getting a deep cycle battery or multiple deep cycle batteries if you go the lead acid route, okay? So that covers the batteries that I have here to show you. Let's talk a little bit about, well, we'll go ahead and talk about these. Now I've got the lights that I'm using here to make the video plugged into this unit, and the reason why is because, to be honest, I don't have 3 power adapters that are powerful enough to run these LED lights for doing the video here. However, this unit, which has been scoffed at by Lead Farmer 73 and others, is absolutely mean enough to run all 3 of these, I'll call them studio lights, but use that term very loosely. Anyway, this is the only thing I have, the one-stop shop, so to speak, to be able to power all 3 lights, because these things draw a pretty hefty amount, to be honest. But anyway, this thing has been tried and true, And they no longer, I know you see or you may see the Florian brand down here, and this was originally the name these originally came out under was ROCKPALS. Well, I found a little better deal on this one, and it's the exact same unit, just a different name on it. Now, you probably won't find them this color anymore, and you won't find them under the ROCKPALS brand, and you won't find them under the Florian brand. But there's AimTom is a company that I recall seeing not too long ago that makes these. And there's one that starts with a B, Box Hour or something. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll try looking for these different things, and I'll put the links down in the description. They will be Amazon affiliate links, so we will make a little bit if you use our links. I would highly appreciate if you did. And it helps us out. It throws us just a little bit, and it doesn't cost you anything more. And we certainly appreciate it. So I will link the things that I have availability to link, and I will find the other brand name of this and put the link down there. They're orange now. They're not the darker colors. They're orange. So, I hope you like being seen. Anyway, incredible units. I've been using this thing ever since I've gotten it. And this thing is awesome. This thing is absolutely incredible. It's rated at 300 watts for the AC, and it does such a good job. And once again, this thing checks off all the marks, right? Pure sine wave inverter. So that's a big plus. It also let's see. It also supports pass-through charging. In other words, I can hook this up to either the solar panel right now, or I could hook this up to the AC outlet and charge it at the same time that I'm using it. So on the back here you have your AC input, which is just like a computer style plug, and then right here, and I'm not a fan of proprietary plugs, but it's got like a DIN kind of style plug for the charging, which did come with it. It did come with it. I've actually got the cable for this inside that ROCKPALS panel, that 60 watt panel. So, I cannot recommend this thing enough. This is just such an awesome unit here. And it's got like an accessory plug, a 12 volt accessory plug, and it support up to 8 amps out of that. It does have a 24 volt port, which it will support up to 3 amps and 24 volt. It's got 3 12 volt ports here that are good for 3 amps apiece, and then it's got your USBs here, and the top 2 are 1 amp, okay, and the bottom 2 are 2.1 amp. Now here's the thing, these lights that I am running right now draw more than 1 amp, and in fact with most of the 2 amp say phone chargers and stuff that I've tried to use with these lights, they're not strong enough to power the lights. So that's telling me that even on the top 2 ports, which they claim only to be pushing 1 amp, it's actually pushing more than 2 amps, because like I say, a 2 amp phone charger will not power these lights correctly. So I'm running 3 of those lights on this unit. To me, that is a testament to this unit. And this is not expensive. I think under the brand names that they're being sold under now, I think they're just under 200 bucks. Okay, in my opinion, that's a heck of a good deal. And if I'm not mistaken, a lot of times Amazon will run like the coupon deal, so you'll even get another 20 bucks or 40, whatever. They run an incredibly good deal on these. It's amazing because they're not popular. They're not, but they do an incredible job. And I'll move on to the next thing, which is this. And I've made plenty of videos on the GoPower Plus. Now, I wouldn't pay what Walmart wants now. They want like 88 bucks for them now. I just looked it up today. But when I bought this, you could buy them in the store off the shelf for like 40 bucks plus tax, right? Incredible deal on these. These are actually pretty good. Now these take a long time to charge. That's another reason why I really like this model, is because the charge controller that's inside of it isn't weak. Okay, you go out and you get one of the bigger Jackeries and stuff like that, man, they take a long time to charge. They can only charge at so much of a rate. In other words, it doesn't matter if you put, 400 watts of panels on it, it's still only going to charge at a set rate, okay? And plus, it's not good to overpower your charge controller because you can burn it out. However, the amount of energy that they can convert from the solar panels to charge the batteries is relatively low. And so that's why it takes a long time to charge up the Jackery or similar models. Aside from the panels don't put out nearly what they say they do, the box itself doesn't have the ability to charge the batteries at a very fast rate. This has a pretty stout charge controller built in it. Again, highly impressed with the charge rate of this, even on solar. This thing charges up real quick on AC power. So again, I cannot recommend these boxes enough. I will do what I can to find you an Amazon link for the brand name that they sell these under now and put it down below. So anyway, back to the GoPower Plus. So I actually seen this. Lead Farmer 73 made a video on this, and I'm like, no way. And 40 bucks at the time. You could go pick them up off the shelf, 40 bucks. And, they're not great. They don't support pass-through charging. I don't think it's a pure sine wave. I think it's modified sine wave, the inverter, but it's rated at 100 watts. And these things, like I say, they don't charge real quick. And the interesting thing is you see these bottom two ports, it says is QC 3.0. The top ports, it claims, is 5 volts at 2.1 amps. This box will not run the lights that this box is powering right now. Even though this claims that it can, it can't. Yet this box that technically claims that the top two ports can't, clearly is. Okay, so I mean, that's interesting to say the least. But these, these come with a little power adapter where you can plug it into the wall and charge this up. It also, comes with the cable you need to be able to, it's got MC4 connectors on one side and it plugs the other side into there. So, it is what it is. It's not great, but if you can find these in a store and they're either on clearance or just on the shelf for 40 bucks, man, they're worth that and then some. I would not pay the 88 bucks for it. I do not believe that they're worth that. But not bad, they got a little flashlight and got a little radio, weather radio thing, and, it's what it is. But, so, that's the GoPower Plus, and those are your boxes, so to speak, right? Now, I want to move on from the boxes. We talked about energy production with the panels. We talked about the solar charge controller that you need to use in between the solar panels and your battery storage, your storage. And so now I want to talk about the conversion, because a lot of us are going to want to run, household goods. They are, what I'm saying is 120 volts AC, okay? So I've got a couple of things here that I want to go over. This is my cheap, and again, if you can afford better, do so. This is ultra cheap. It's not great, but it's effective. And they claim 2,000 watt, and that's supposedly 2,000 watts continuous. Supposedly, they think this has a surge up to 3,000 watt is what their claim is. Do I really trust that? Well, you can probably tell by the way I'm talking. Nah, not really. And this is not pure sine wave. This is modified sine wave. This was just a cheap unit. You can get similar units. I don't think it's got the same brand or model numbers and stuff like that, but you can tell by the housing and the display and all that. It's essentially the same unit. You can still get these. And if this is all you can afford, then guess what? Deal with it. Get it. But if you can afford something a little bit better, I highly recommend it. And this, this is literally this easy, right? So you've got your box here. I've got two cables here. I'm going to hook up one cable over to the negative here, just like that. I'm going to hook the other cable over to the positive here, just like that. I'm going to flip the power switch, and there you have it, right? My batteries are reading at 12.7 volts currently. I'm outputting 117 volts AC, okay? That's simple. You've seen how quick and easy that was, and now I'm producing power, and I can power up, well, what they claim, up to 2,000 watts. I wouldn't hold my breath on that though. But still, that's AC power right there, that quick. How much simpler can that be, right? You know, these boxes are nice, but you have everything that I covered in one container, one housing. You have your solar charge controller, you have your battery, and you have your inverter, all in one box. And if any one of those components fail in the system, the box is useless. And so that's why I don't promote getting anything over about a 300 watt solar generator, as they call them. I don't recommend anything over about a 300 watt because you're just throwing your money away. I'm just being real honest. Unless you absolutely need the convenience and you've got money burning a hole in your pocket, I wouldn't pay for anything over about a 300 watt unit because you really start it's really not worth it unless you need to pay for that convenience. But you can go with a system like this and have much more power output. I will guarantee that this will output more power consistently than what this will on the AC side, no doubt. Okay, but this is a cheap model, and I do want to make that extremely clear. Now I'm gonna shut this off, and you're gonna hear weird noise. So I'm gonna shut it off, and now I'm gonna pull these, but I'm gonna turn it back on because there's capacitors inside here, and I wanted to drain those out. That way, if these touch, it's not going to blow anything up because I've drained the power out of it. So again, I'll emphasize once again, knowledge is the most important. Otherwise you'll burn a bunch of stuff up. So here, and I've showed this before, this is a UPS, an uninterruptible, I think it's uninterruptible power supply. And I always mess up and call it a universal power supply. It's not. I believe it's an uninterruptible power supply is what this is. This is designed for computers. So this is going to be a pure sine wave. I think they actually call it something else because it's like a really, really clean power that these put out. And you can buy these. This one here, I can't remember now off the top of my hand. Let me look. Off the top of my head, 900 watts. This here is good for 900 watts, and that's continuous. Okay, and again, it's going to be the, I'll try to turn it around so you can see here. It's going to be a pure sine wave, and as you can see, it's got 5 AC outlets on it. This is the input where you normally hook it up. And the interesting thing about these, for one, this unit here is 24 volts. Okay, so anytime that you have a system, the higher voltage you have, it's going to be more efficient. So your 24 volt system is going to be much more efficient than your 12 volt system. Okay, and so if you can, yeah, run 24 volt. Heck, if you can, run 48 volt. But the important thing to note is that these you can find, you can scavenge. And that's what's the important thing about this. Okay? If you're stuck, if SHTF was to happen right now, and you have no way to produce household current, you don't have a power inverter like I showed you, okay? You don't have a power inverter. Let's say you didn't have time to get one. Man, there's places you can find these, offices, places like that have computer systems that they want to protect against, power surges or power outages. They're going to be there. And these things put out an extremely clean power. And the thing is this one's 900 watt. You can get them, I think, around 650 watt or so on right now on Amazon for around $100. Okay, so not quite as big and hefty as this unit here. But at the same time, newer technology. This is an older unit. Newer technology, which means the circuitry inside is probably going to be built a little better, going to be built a little more efficient. So you take some, you give some. These are an incredible way to go. And I would even recommend these, you know, for just your general use if you'd like. One thing you can do is these have little batteries inside of them. I think they're 7 amp hour batteries, and there's 2 of them because again this is 24 volt system, so there's 2 batteries inside of here, 7 amp hour, and these batteries have been long dead. They're still in there, but they've been long dead. And so what I did is I drilled out the housing here a little bit so that I could fit the cables through, and that way I can hook it up to that. Now I'd have to rearrange my wires into a 24 volt configuration. I'm not going to do that right now. So I could do that, and you see I've already got it set up to be able to plug in to here, which these are not good connectors. I don't recommend them. This is when I did up our bikes, I got what I could and what I could afford. I don't recommend these cheap junk connectors, okay? I just don't. I wouldn't even remotely recommend them. But it's what I could do at the time. So anyway, I've got this set up so that I can hook up batteries, you know, 2 batteries, a minimum of 2 12 volt batteries in a series for 24 volts to this system to use. And I'm telling you, this is an incredible way to go. And even if you bought one of these new, okay, to use, you can always take and put a connector on the side of it. Again, knowledge, most important part. Learn how to do it. Be careful. Don't hurt yourself. Don't blow anything up. But you could actually put a connector on the unit itself here so that you could plug in more battery storage right to this unit. And I probably will do that at some point if I get the chance to. But these are incredible for clean power, consistent power, and again, if it's an SHTF situation, you can find these. A lot of people are going to overlook these. They're not going to think anything about them, okay? So keep that in mind. But whatever you do, you know, if you don't have a ton of money to spend, don't go out and spend a ton of money on what these prepper channels are recommending, because the bang for the buck just isn't there, folks. It's just not there. And that's what I want to try to help you. I want to try to help you save money. I want to help you get prepared. And so that's why I'm making this video. I've been working with electrical stuff literally since like 4 or 5 years old. And that's not exaggeration. I was a natural at electricity, at electronics, and I've always had a love for it, always been involved in it. No, I don't know absolutely everything there is to know about it, not even remotely. In fact, my limitations really start to kick in around digital electronics, okay? I understand basics of digital electronics, but, you know, you get into the AND gates or whatever and all that stuff, yeah, that starts to go above me. However, I do have a good foothold on basic electrical and basic electronics. I can read a schematic and whatnot. I know how to use an oscilloscope. I worked in an electronics test and repair lab when I was, I don't know, what, 19 years old or so? 19, 20, something like that. Right here in town. I worked as I worked in the test and repair lab. I was a tech, right? Without any college experience or anything. Just with the knowledge I had because of my love for electrical and you know, electrical gadgets and stuff like that. So just the stuff I learned on my own was enough to get me in the door to work in a test and repair lab. So, you know, I think that speaks for something. But, you know, don't go out and spend a ton of money. And most importantly, if you've got any questions, leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer for you. Anyway, I'm going to ask you one more time, please share this content. I highly appreciate it. We're trying to get out there. We're trying to build another channel here that's a step away from the news, so that way I can kind of separate what we do at the Watchman News and here at Dirt Cheap Preps. And again, if you've got any questions, don't hesitate. Put it down below. I'll do my best to answer, provide video links or whatever I need to do in order to help answer your questions. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for watching. I appreciate you. I hope you all have a great day. Shalom.